Hi, everyone. It's Reverend Laurie for this second week in February of 2021. And you will be seeing this, our Unity of Ocala Love Notes, tomorrow, which is Wednesday, February 10th. It's my sister's birthday. She is in the Carolinas this week with my nephew and her grandbabies. So I will be calling to see how she is doing on her birthday. I hope you are wonderfully well. It is so much warmer this week than it was last week when we spoke. And we've been talking about the Kabbalah and the teachings of the Kabbalah and how beautifully they fit in with our unity spiritual studies. We're going to discuss this for a few more weeks leading into the season of Lent, because I believe that they tuck neatly in together on our ongoing search for that wonderful spiritual sweet spot, other known as enlightenment. Let's see if points of that we can feel in this experience on earth. We've been discussing the power of Kabbalah, Yehuda Berg's book, and I enjoy, especially teaching new students to Kabbalah. I enjoy using this text because it's very simplistic, and it just basically gets the tenets out in some easy to follow text. You can go as deep into the Kabbalah as you want, just like unity teachings. Charles Fillmore used to tell us that unity holds shallows that a child can splash in and depths that a giant must swim. And so the more we become comfortable with and accustomed to creating a religion and a spiritual journey of our own, and the more we learn about these other mystical teachings and the other great religions of the world, other than just the one we were born in and raised in, we have this wonderful, vast toolbox of tools to help us build a path and a spiritual practice that works best for us. I draw from a variety of religions for my spiritual journey. I use a lot of meditation techniques from the Hindu tradition and the Buddhist tradition. I love the deep teachings of Torah through the Kabbalistic and other mystical Jewish teachings. I love the teachings of the Christian mystics, particularly those of 13th and 14th century, when something profound was happening to these mystics, something cosmically. And we'll go into that in another point of this year when we get deeper into some of these mystical teachings. But right now we're kind of going over the Kabbalah's 13 rules to the game of life. And I've been talking about each of them. And last week I'm going to go over them quickly for those of you who haven't been listening. I want to thank those of you who have commented. We have a lot of interest in Kabbalah studies out there. So thank you for your comments, and thank you for keeping up and your suggestions. These rules are great rules, and they certainly cross over all boundaries of religions, because we find these similar rules in all the great mystical teachings of each of the branches of religions in the world. These rules are simple, but not always easy to follow. Don't believe a word you read. Try it yourself. You're the best judge of your spiritual journey, especially if you've been around the sun many decades, right? We're kind of starting to get a grasp on what works and what doesn't. There's two basic realities in our earthly existence, two basic opposing forces constantly bombarding us. 99% light, 1% darkness, the realm of the ego. It feels like it's 100% because it covers the light. It's like a blanket over a lampshade, and that 99% is under the lampshade. And we decide how many layers of that 1% we want to block that sun out, that light out. Everything that a human being truly desires from life is spiritual light. We think it's something else. We think it's got to be this or that or tomorrow or could have been, would have been, should have been. So we try to fill it, we chase it, we desire it, we long for it, we become addicted to all of these things that we think would bring us that sense of joy and fulfillment. But it is the spiritual light. It is God. It is a higher power. universal being, whatever you want to call it. It is that connection. The purpose of life is spiritual transformation from being reactive to being proactive. And therein lies our work. And we all had an opportunity this week to just pay attention to what pushes those triggers of ours. We all know what they are. And instead of reacting, instead of going into our fight, freeze, or flee mode, observing. How'd you do with that? I'll bet you had lots of experiences to see what those triggers are doing to you. Rule number 5, in the moment of our transformation, we make contact with that 99% light. In the moment we choose not to react, in the moment we take decisive action to back up out of the ego and not let that ego take charge, spout off, react, the moment that happens, we take off one of those veils from the light because the ego dims, it loses its power. It really does. Never, that means never, lay blame on other people or external events. That's a tough one. Just let that sink in. Rule 7, resisting our reactive impulses creates lasting light. In other words, the more that we make the decision not to react, this doesn't mean being abused or walked on or complete surrender. That's not what this means. This means resisting the urge to fight back, to become triggered, to get annoyed, to get off of that center. Because you're just putting another layer, another cover on the light. That's all you're doing. You're giving the darkness, you're giving the ego more power. That's what the ego wants, more power, more control. Because if that ego is completely light and there is nothing to fight, nothing to lose, nothing to win, the battle is over, then what's the purpose of the ego? Well, when we train that ego that, yes, you have a place, you're just a terrible master, you're a terrible driver, but you're a wonderful servant. So just sit in the back seat and let the light drive. We'll find your purpose. Easier said than done, right? Reactive behavior creates intense sparks of light, but eventually leaves darkness in its wake, and generally deeper darkness than before. You may feel good at reacting momentarily. It may feed something in you, and you might feel proud of yourself for having that comeback or dismantling that person's agenda or whatever. It may be a spark, but it doesn't last. And what usually happens, because you're reacting, the universe brings you more and more and more of what you put out there. So the universe brings you more and more opportunities to react. The minute you choose to not react, a layer is lifted off of that light. But don't take my word for it. You try it on. Some of you are trying it. Number 9, obstacles are our opportunity to connect to the light. There it is. This was the aha of all ahas for me. It is those very obstacles that I have been running from, hiding from, fighting with, pushing against, getting angry with, embarrassed from, ashamed of, resisting, eluding and evading all of my life. Obstacles are our opportunity to connect with that 99%. If we didn't have those opportunities to grow that spiritual part of us stronger and brighter than the ego, we would not experience the light. I'm still not welcoming challenges and opportunities, but I'm not as upset about them or disappointed or saddened, because I know that by not reacting to that, there is a gift in there. There is a gift, and there's a reason why those challenges exist. And in whatever form, cosmically, eternally, I have decided, whatever contract arrangement I have made with my godly self, to come and expand my light, to know God more, to be more of God. These are the experiences, activities, and situations that bring me to that place of higher knowing and higher being. So those obstacles are our greatest access to the light. And guess what? The next rule: the greater the obstacle, the more potential of the light. This does take practice. But if you've been around those beings who have mastered this on certain levels, I think when you truly master it, you ascend. What's the point being around here except maybe being, an example for the rest of us? But if you've been around those who really, sometimes you say, well, they just have it all together, or they're just so calm in a storm, or there's just those peacekeepers, the 9 on the Enneagram, whatever. But they have mastered a level of, okay, I see that. I see that challenge. These people used to aggravate the heck out of me at first. But I begin to understand that the more I don't react to certain situations, I don't think I have to have the answer, or I don't think you're wrong. This needs to stop. Oh, I can't stand this. I'm leaving here. I'm slamming the door. I'm never coming back. You won't get it. The more I resist the urge, the trigger to do that, the more insight begins to come to me. And there's a part in this book that puts this really well, because so often when we're beginning a spiritual practice and we're trying to find that inner voice, we're trying to find that point of center, and we don't know, like, what part of me is the light and what part is the ego. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. Sometimes in our human state, in our protectiveness of others and our willing, to stand up for ourselves, that we don't know what side of the veil that voice is coming from. And this is pretty clear. Neale Donald Walsch puts it very clear too. But this part of the ratings war in this book puts it at a good starting point is this for distinguishing any thought that is loud and crystal clear and urges us to react to a situation, especially quickly, is the darkness, is the ego. That quick to the trigger, quick to action. Let that be your guide. Any thought that tells us that we know better, any thought that tells us that this shouldn't be this way, I'm going to fix this, I won't have that. The notion that our thoughts can be chemical reactions causing us to lean into the darkness. That's what's happening. So it goes on. If a thought is barely audible, a faint voice emanating from the recesses of our mind, that behind the noise, under the storm, the more you listen for it, the more you'll hear it. That is the song of the light, as the Kabbalists say. Or if what you have is a sudden flash of intuition. When we spend so much time reacting, we dull the sense of intuition. And it's very keen in us, especially women and mothers. There's a sense in us that goes beyond ourself, that is an invisible force that we just know. The more we don't react, the more we pull those shrouds off that light, the clearer and more audible this inner voice becomes. Or an impromptu inspiration. An impromptu inspiration. That broadcast is originating from the 99% light. These two frequencies on the airwaves of our minds express themselves in this way. The darkness thoughts manifest as our rational, logical ego minds. That's when you know you're coming from that. The light signal manifests as intuition, dreams, a faint, quiet voice in the back of our mind. When we learn this, even for a moment, when we give pause, when we are being triggered, when we simply stop, and if you're like me, I want that guidance, so I will stop and I will ask God, allow me the space and the open heart and mind to hear what is being revealed. Reveal to me, dear God, what needs be revealed. Heal in me what needs be healed so that I may celebrate you. And then listen. Take time in the quiet. Take time in nature. Next week, we're going to go over the next just couple of Kabbalah rules as we then dive into Ash Wednesday and the state of grace, the journey to Easter and resurrection. Ooh, 2021 is going to be a collective resurrection that we have never seen in our lifetime. I just know that. I don't know how I know that, but I just know that. That's not coming from the ego, is it? I don't know. I'll have to think about that. I want to read for you as we leave today's love notes and prepare for a weekend of Valentine's and love and enjoying each other and having fun. I see two kayakers out on my lake and they're just having the time of their life. Oh, I'm just in such a great space right now. And this is what we have to look forward to coming up. This is from Charles Fillmore's Keep a True Lent. If you haven't taken this journey through the Lent season, this is a time-tested, extraordinary unity text that throughout the ages has proven to be a joyous journey for students of truth, students of unity, spiritual students everywhere. And we are going to go through it throughout the next few the next 40 days plus 4 Sundays in that. And then we're going to go into some other mystical teachings. I don't know which ones yet. Spirit will tell me. So open your heart as we begin this Lent season. Lent is a season of spiritual growth, a time for progressive unfoldment. There's an energy on the planet at this time, and Easter and Passover are on the same day this year. That doesn't happen very often. We're going to be celebrating them both. When we can blend and merge our mind with God mind, and the way is open for the Lord to glorify us and lift us into a higher, more pure spiritual state. Are you excited? Have a wonderful week and a wonderful Valentine's weekend. And I won't see you this Sunday. Reverend Marcia McCartney will be with you on Sunday, my dear friend, and what a lovely person to have on Valentine's Day. I'll be with the folks at Unity of Vero Beach, and I will see you on the 21st, but I'll see you next week for Love Notes on Ash Wednesday. I love you. God loves you. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.